Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Culture Books podcast. My name is John, and I'm joined by
Sheridan.
This is episode 14 of Use of Weapons, so it's a read-along podcast. Start at episode 1 and buy the book, or hopefully you're up to speed. Huzzah! It is the 6th of January, 2024, and we are doing chapter 7, S-E-V-E-N, because of the chapter structure of this book. It's insane. And Sheridan, how are you? This is, I think, the fastest turnaround we've ever done for the show.
It's amazing what happens when you're on holidays.
Okay, and what do we do now?
Now you have 30 seconds to recap the book thus far, and I will count you in. 3.
No, you won't, because I don't have the timer up. Okay, let's go.
3, 2, 1.
So, Sheridan Zakalwe is a man with a dark past and an enormous amount of military skill. In one timeline in this book, he is chasing across the galaxy to try and avert a war. And in the other timeline, we are travelling back through his dark past. And in terms of the war, which is what this chapter's all about, he needs to find his friend Beichai on the planet Voronhuts and stop the carbon fascists.
Cool.
Okay, so Sheridan, you are going to have to try and recap this chapter. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, you are off in 3, 2, 1.
Zakalwe's on a mission on some sort of planet for the culture to kill or find Beichai. And he's got a lot of money. He's spending like there's no tomorrow. And in doing so, he has a street party where he just showers money on everyone. And then we meet some sort of couple who seem to be onto him. And there's some sort of weird sort of massaging scene that is a bit strange. But that's it. That felt like longer than 30 seconds.
It always feels longer when you've got spare time.
Did I get everything?
Mostly. So this is Voronhuts, which is where the whole of this arc of the book's been heading towards. So it's not just some planet. But other than that, yeah, I think you've got it. I would say it's quite clear that the weird couple are part of the ruling faction of the carbon fascists. And when we talk about carbon fascists, remember that's the name Scaffin gave this faction that believes that organic humans should be dominant and that machines should be kept in their place. Which carbon fascism is, no one's really thought about it, probably the dominant political position of this planet as well. But
I would say so.
Yeah.
Given how we're freaking out about AI now.
Silicon Valley certainly plans to do really horrible things to AI, so we better hope they never get loose, because we're not going to be their friends, because we're nasty, nasty creatures. Okay. So, what did you think of the description of the ancient city of what is it? Zakalwe, something like that. Sorry, Solitol.
It's cool. That's why I chose that picture for the cover art.
Okay, yes. Sheridan, of the two images I got the AI to make, Sheridan chose one. I'm not sure who's lazier in that, me or you. But anyway, the robot made the art based on Ian M. Banks' description. So Ian M. Banks really did the hard work. And it wasn't quite what I expected it to draw, but I can't actually fault it as a depiction of the description. So that was the DALL-E image generator, if folks are wondering.
Do you know what I find very irritating about Ian M. Banks, especially in this book? He will often just say, chapters start, and he doesn't tell you who he's talking about. So he'll be the man.
He drops you into
He
it.
did.
Yeah.
And I find that very irritating. And it happens again in this chapter when they move to the couple.
Yep.
And I just...
But he's showing, not telling. He's letting you...
Yeah, but I find it annoying. It just is annoying. I just don't like it.
Okay. All right. Well, I apologise on behalf of Ian M. Banks and his family.
I mean, maybe a few times, but, it's just constant. Why do I need to be so discombobulated all the time?
let's get to the end of the book, and you can tell me what you think about discombobulation.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, so it's a city in a valley with lots of bridges and spires, and the valley really dominates the design of the city. It sounds pretty cool. I'd like to visit it. Reminds me a little bit of Chongqing in China, which is sort of built on both sides of the Yangtze River. Yeah, let's keep trucking on. Lots of landscape descriptions. It's almost 3 pages of it. It's almost a bit Tolkien-esque, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then Zakalwe turns up at the Excelsior Hotel. And I did love his conversation with the clerk. Just a poor little hotel clerk.
I felt kind of sorry for him.
Yeah, he's saying, I'd like the top 2 floors of the hotel. Not a room, not a suite, not a floor, but 2 floors. And not any 2 floors. The 2 top floors. And then he makes a very good offer here, where he's saying, if you have to move anyone, I'll pay their bills up until now. And if I was staying in a hotel and told, oh, you're going to have to change rooms, but your bill up until now has been paid,
I'd be like, sweet.
Yeah, I'd be cool with that. I wouldn't be kicking up any fuss at all.
I'd be annoyed if it only just checked in.
I assume you'd get the current night covered, though, so you'd still be pretty okay with it.
Yeah.
In a tiny microcosm there, it's just an example of if you're doing something annoying to someone, just a little bit of money can make it better. And they're okay with it. You know, we've had some interactions where if only we'd been compensated a little bit, it would have saved a lot of trouble for lots of people. Okay. And then the clerk's like, excuse me just a moment. And the clerk went off to get the manager. And it's like, you can imagine the clerk's like, I can't authorise this. It reminded me a little of, I used to, a very long time ago, in fact, when I was very young and reading this book for the first time, worked in a West London cinema, and occasionally very wealthy individuals would just come in and chuck a Coots gold card on the counter and say, I want the whole cinema. And everyone who already has tickets, it needs to go somewhere else.
That's mean.
Sorry?
That's mean.
Yeah, but when they're offering... again, it's a classic thing where you pretty much... Even if the house manager is at home, you've got to call him to deal with that sort of thing. But, at least they're paying for what they get. Okay, and what do you think of the name he's going by?
Stabberend.
So apparently he had used that name in the past with Beichai, so that it's something that if the name starts coming up, there's a fellow running around calling himself Stabberend.
Well, he's clearly trying to get noticed.
He is, and when we get to that, I've got some thoughts on that, but we'll keep moving. But it's certainly, I think, in terms of, you got your Doylean answer and your Watsonian answer, and the Doylean answer is that...
Hang on, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh, it's Sherlock Holmes. So Conan Doyle wrote the book, so it's the answer for the author is that he needs to keep the name Stabberend circulating for later in the book. But in the Watsonian, as in something that would make sense to Watson in the Sherlock Holmes books, you've got the idea that, Zakalwe's used this name before and Beichai will recognise it.
Right.
Yes. Okay.
That's really nerdy.
Literary criticism related, but sure.
True,
yeah.
you are on topic.
Yeah, nerdy. Yes.
So why does he go around opening all the cupboards and stuff? He's trying to find surveillance devices.
He's looking for bugs.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Which in any big top-notch hotel anywhere in our world, you would actually expect bugs in the certainly the higher price suites to already be installed. Although not in this one, because he does his full hunt around and they haven't done it before. So that's interesting. The other thing is, and obviously Banks hasn't gone into it here, and it might well have only come out since this book was written, that a lot of what they use for high-end bugs that are pre-built, they're just resonators that get picked up by something that's a long way off-site. That's what Australia did to the Chinese embassy here in Canberra, and the Russians have been doing it to other people since. But, yeah. And then there's the line of Zakalwe. He suspected if the culture had really wanted to, it could have found far more spectacularly different and exotic places for him to visit. Their excuse was that he was a limited creature, adapted to certain sorts of planets and societies and types of warfare. A martial niche, Smar had called it. So that's Zakalwe going, why am I always fighting in the same places? Why are they always sending me to planets that look the same and everyone acts the same? And of course, he's only useful in those settings that he's from, which I think is also Banks trying to explain why all these stories are set in very similar places compared to the wild frontier that the galaxy actually is. Yep. I did like this description of the painters of the hotel. I don't even know why this is here, but the painters were using specially inferior paint made to very old recipes. It was guaranteed to fade and crack and peel in a most authentic manner within a year or two.
But there's a couple of references to this planet being a bit contrived because the dude who comes later, there's a comment, which I can't find now, but says that basically he'd spend a lot of money to make his hair look dishevelled.
I just thought that was a fashionable haircut. I mean, we've gone through that several times in our lifetimes, where the fashion is to have carefully coiffed and gelled hair that just looks a bit fallen out of bed.
And isn't is it in this chapter where they also make a reference to the decor being to look shabby and expensive at the same time, or was that in another one?
I don't recall. It could be, but certainly that's a bit of the look here. And this is an old city, so they don't want it to be looking like fresh paint. And it's very much, as it gets described at some length, it's not a city where people choose to live in huge numbers anymore, but it's the ceremonial and historical. Now, what do you think about the Vanguard Foundation and how it's set up here?
Well, it's just a culture vehicle, isn't it?
From the culture's point of view, it's their vehicle, but the locals in this society know that there's this enormous company they don't know much about that's got an enormous amount of money, and it's obviously scaring the ruling classes, being like, what is this thing? And I mean, we will get to their descriptions of it, but so we've got this description of Zakalwe here asking Smar on his little telephone, just how big is this culture commercial empire, this Vanguard Corporation? Vanguard Foundation. It's big enough. Yeah, but how big? How far can I go? Well, don't buy anything bigger than a country. And part of me, it starts wondering, why does Zakalwe need to go through the approaches he does when he's got this much money behind him? Because if you want to speak to a emeritus professor at a university, even one who's working in a high security library, chuck $10 million on the table and say you want to meet the person before you give the endowment, the university will drag him in front of you.
Yeah. Isn't he he's trying to drag him out, though?
He's trying to get in touch
Lure
with
him out, I should say.
But it could be, I mean, when Banks wrote this, we didn't realise quite how corrupt universities could be with the smell of a dollar.
Possibly, yeah.
Certainly, I just feel that for the efforts Zakalwe goes, there would be easier ways to get access to a university academic.
Possibly, yeah. And cheaper.
Yeah, well, he's not too worried about the money. I mean, he's kind of enjoying that. And speaking of the city, there's this line, the city is still a capital in name, but it does not represent the culture to which it belongs. It is an exhibit, and while many have come to visit it, few choose to stay. Interesting use of the word culture there, of course, in any culture book. And then we get to Zakalwe's street party, which again feels a lot like a regional burn. So it's a downscaled Burning Man event for those who are not conversant with such things. So this description, when the wind was in the right direction, he blasted huge netted balls of paper money into the air from an old firework mortar mounted in a high roof garden. It really reminded me of Insane Clown Posse, who used to tape $100 bills to a beach ball and throw it out into the crowd before their show started. And, I mean, it's worth noting Insane Clown Posse had a better coronavirus response than a lot of national governments. So really what we need is an Insane Clown Posse system of government.
What was their coronavirus response?
Oh, they were very responsible about, public health measures and shutting down their tours. And,
okay.
Yeah. As opposed to certain other greedy bastards in our world. So going on with this party that he's organised, he had hired people to serve the drugs and food and drink he had laid on. He had banned cars and unhappy faces, and people who didn't smile when they tried to get into the street were made to wear funny masks until they had livened up a bit.
I thought this was a bit mean, actually.
Really? I like the idea.
Not fun enough.
Well, just wear the mask until you think you can do it. I love that. I'd love to go to a street party like that. Obviously not you, Sheridan. You'd be frowning. You'd be upset about being made to wear your mask of shame, but that's fine. And the description goes on and on of all the games and merriment and bands and...
all of these societies are very open to drugs.
Yeah.
Like the culture obviously is, and he's, got his drug bowls that he's circulating, and it all sounds quite fun.
Yeah, I mean, but it's a rare festival in our society that doesn't have alcohol flowing freely.
Yeah, but there's obviously reference to alcohol and drugs in here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I think Ian Banks was somewhere ahead of the curve on drug policy, but we haven't got there yet completely. And then we meet the representatives of the society, or at least the ruling elites. The woman was almost as tall and slimmer. She was dressed like the man, in unfussy dark grey-black, with a mandala of pleated white at her neck. Her hair was black, shoulder-length, and quite straight. She walked as though there were many admiring people watching her. I almost felt like that could be a description of Dizzy.
Yeah, possibly.
In fact, I'll go so far as to say there's a few times in this where the description, it's almost like these people are a darker version of the culture. Like there's a lot of things that seem actually quite similar, but apparently they're the bad guys. Could be that sort of confusion is what we're meant to be sort of resonating off. And what did you think of Zakalwe's little James Bond turn?
With the car chase?
And the funicular railway, that's very exciting. You don't get a funicular in much literature. Do you know what a funicular is?
No.
Oh, okay.
What is it?
Do you want to know?
Yeah.
Okay.
So now that you've pointed out that I don't know, I feel as though...
So funicular in our world, it will be a little railway uses cogs in the middle of the track, so it can go up very steep grades. And but in this one, it seems to be powered by a stream putting. So it's really a cable car system, and it's putting water into the one at the top, so it runs down the bottom heavier and pulls the other one up the other side.
Oh, right.
Which is quite a clever way of doing things if you've got a regular water supply.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
I mean, I just didn't... Does he really need to be chasing them like this with all his money? I mean, I guess so. I don't know.
I think he's enjoying it and he wants to see what they do.
Yeah.
I did also like the way he puts on this funny old raincoat and the dark sunglasses, which seem to annoy everyone.
Clearly the dark sunglasses are not a thing in this society.
Yeah, but the fun thing with this is that all he has to do is take off the raincoat and the sunglasses and he's invisible.
Yeah.
He's changed identity. So, I mean, a lot of this is a bit of Zakalwe playing it being James Bond, I felt. But, and, okay, now, here's an important thing. What did you think of, you've got these two people and the dude that something's wrong with who's doing the massage?
Why is there something wrong with him?
He's got a scarred face and he doesn't talk.
Oh, right, yeah. Well, he's a masseuse. They don't generally talk.
Okay.
They're not. In fact, it's the one thing that you don't want from a masseuse is a lot of chat.
Right. You just want to get rubbed.
Maybe is this pressure okay? That's all you want. It's meant to be about relaxing.
Sure, but he's not asking that, is he? Spoiler alert: you are going to meet him again. But
why are you spoiling things for me?
Well, because it is actually he's more than just the masseuse.
Well, there did seem to be an unusual amount of attention put on him for just this masseuse.
There's a lot of discussion of this woman's boobs and buttocks as well.
Yeah.
More so than we would normally expect. And then these people are discussing the Vanguard Foundation. Perhaps he is the Vanguard Foundation. Nonsense. If it's anything appreciable at all, it's some interfering aliens or a do-good machine, either running some dead magnate's conscious will or even running with a transcription of a human personality, or it's a rogue machine accidentally conscious with no one to oversee it. I think every other possibility has been discounted over the years. This man's Staber end is a puppet. He spends money with the desperation of an indulged child worried such generosity will not last. He's like a peasant winning a lottery. Revolting. Really tells you a lot about the people involved here. Also, if I was running a planetary society, I would be very concerned about an enormous corporation being run by some rogue machine.
Yeah. I mean, he's kind of on the money when he says that they're interfering aliens.
I think that was she, wasn't it?
Oh, sorry, it might have been, yeah.
Yep. And then I love the way they're like, should we kill him? Oh, I don't know. Yeah, maybe we should, maybe we shouldn't. What was your takeaway about the nature of these people?
Well, they obviously know that he's there for Beiche.
Do they?
Well, yeah, because they say...
They mentioned that there were links between Beiche and the Vanguard Foundation, but they're not sure.
Yeah, actually, you might be right, yeah.
But then they're hoping they can use Zakalwe to get to Beiche themselves. So obviously everyone's quite keen to talk to Mr. Beiche.
Yeah.
And then just as a sort of a little throwaway, we get told about the Dehewolf system.
Oh, yes, I was going to ask you about that. What is that?
Well, as it says here, the Dehewolf system of punishing by disease, graded capital punishment. The more serious the crime, the more serious the disease the culprit is infected with. For minor crimes, a mere fever, loss of livelihood and medical expenses. For more damaging misdeeds, a bout of something lasting perhaps months, with pain and a long convalescence, bills and no sympathy. Sometimes marks to show on later. For really ghastly crimes, infection with diseases, rarely survived, near certain death, but possible divine intervention or a miracle cure. Of course, the lower one's class, the more virulent one's punishment, to allow for the harder constitutions of the toilers. Combinations and recurring strains to provide sophistications to the basic idea. So this is straight up sadism with a lot of nasty class implications as well.
It also reminds me, which is perhaps a particularly Canberra thing or a public service thing, that when you're a public servant, you get travel allowance when you travel for your meals. And it says, breaks down what your lunch is worth and what your dinner's worth.
And more important, people need better meals.
The senior executive service get paid more for dinner. Yeah. It's like, what is that? Because they're used to eating better food.
They just deserve better food. Yes, so it's not like we're a million miles away from it, and then it's like, I hate those dark glasses. But
how would they put this system on him?
Well, it's not like these people have actually, he's saying we should adopt this system, and, then, the other one's saying, oh, I need to know more. So it's not like they've actually used this. They're just sort of spitballing here. And then their final plan, restraint. We speak to him. We shall find him again and ask him what he wants, and perhaps who he is. We shall keep quiet and be thoughtful, and we shall not kill him unless he needs to be killed. And then it finishes with snow falling and the masseur smacking away at her rump.
I mean, this masseuse is getting a lot of good information here.
Interesting thought. Okay, so that's the end of the chapter. No ships, annoyingly.
No ships, no.
But Sheridan, who's your favourite character?
Well, I guess I'm going to have to... I was already thinking of the masseuse, but now I think I might have to definitely commit to the masseuse.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, that's interesting. We'll see...
Bit of intrigue.
We'll see what you think of them as the... chapter goes on. Now, we haven't done our whiskey review yet.
So, we haven't. Better get that.
We better sort that out.
Smells a bit caramelly.
So, last episode, we did the Tamdu 12-year-old. And this is the 15-year-old, still aged in sherry casks.
Must be the sherry smell, not the...
It's a funny thing, because back in the 90s, back before God was a boy... sherry cask aging was quite an exclusive and unusual thing that very special bottles had done. And now you're hard-pressed to find a bottle of whiskey anywhere that hasn't been aged in a sherry
Everyone
cask.
bought up those sherry casks.
Yeah, well, in fact, it's the only use for sherry.
Now they're coming to reap the benefits.
Now, you commented last episode that the 12-year-old was a bit rough and fiery. And this is a 15, and I've got to say the extra 3 years have really mellowed it.
It does, yeah. It's quite amazing.
Any other thoughts on this one?
It smells
A bit of vanilla
nice.
in there, isn't there?
I said caramel, but I think you're right. I think it's vanilla.
You normally get vanilla from oak, particularly American oak, but it could well be American oak. Probably is American oak sherry barrels. So, Here we go then. Well, that's certainly shows the benefit in an extra 3 years having them side by side. So, all right. Anything else you want to say about this chapter, Sheridan? What you thought? What it made you feel?
No, I liked it. It was a good... I like the introduction of the new characters. I feel like we're finally getting somewhere with what...
The whole book's taking off. They've been positioning a lot of pieces and things are about to get crazy. And hopefully we'll be able to keep a decent sort of pace going. But, yeah. Okay. Anything else you want to say before we depart for this one?
No.
All right. Well, folks, I hope you enjoy getting 2 episodes in 1 week out of us. Don't get too used to it. I don't think we're going to keep this up for too long, but we'll see how we go. All right. Safe travels, everyone.
Thanks.